And welcome into the Thursday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Paul Kuharsky will be along later in the program. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We got a lot going on the program today. It is opening night for the Nashville Predators. Andrew Brunette, Predators head coach, will join us later in the show at 7:30, so looking forward to that. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for his weekly visit coming up at 8 o'clock, and we will get into the Titans. We will get into NFL headlines with him, as we always do. Taking your thoughts throughout the show at 615-737-1025, our phone number. Ian Safar, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Robert. Happy Preds opening day to everybody out there, huh?
It does feel nice, right?
How about that?
You know, last year, and I know, we're going to have Brunette on, and they want absolutely zero part of talking about last year, which I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to talk about last year either. But, if you're a Predators fan, today's got to feel pretty good from the standpoint of, you knew pretty quickly last year that it was over, right? You start 0-5. By the time Christmas came around, you were just so far out of it that it felt like it was just impossible to climb back in. And then ultimately became clear that it was impossible to climb back in. So
early on, it was weird. It's like you kind of just felt like they would turn it on.
Yeah.
And it would kick in for the first couple months.
It just never did.
And it just never did.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, and then fate just kind of set in.
Yeah. So it's been that was a slog to end last year. And that's from the fans. It's definitely from the players. I mentioned it on the show last year. There were times you walked in the locker room and it just felt like you were walking into a funeral or something. It was man, everybody in here is just so blah. It's just a bad mood.
Just down everywhere, huh?
Yeah. So it's nice from that standpoint where it's all right, everything's fresh. We talked yesterday about how the expectations are going to be really low for this group, which I think to some degree
expectations are very low.
To some degree, they like that. And we've seen Predators teams kind of thrive on that before. We'll see how equipped they are to deal with it. But I do sense, being around him at practice yesterday and just kind of getting the sense for the energy level and all that, I sense some renewed energy. I have no idea, Ian, what that's going to mean when it comes to the actual results of this hockey team. But I think human nature, you get another kick at the can here and you can finally put last year behind you. I'm interested to see particularly, these first two home games, can you get yourself off to a halfway decent start this year, which they've not been able to do the last couple of years?
I feel like they'll respond for the most part. It's hard to know for sure, obviously, but I think they'll play pretty well. I don't know how much it'll translate to wins, but I don't know. I do feel a little bit, they do feel bounce back in them. A little bit of a bounce back. I think they're going to exceed expectations this year, for outside expectations, a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, is that going to result in a playoff berth?
I don't think they'll be bottom 5 league they're projected right now. I think they'll bounce back. I don't know if it'll, maybe they can push for a wild card.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, I would say.
I would say so too.
But I don't think they'll be bottom 5 picking, talking about lottery again next year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And, Brady Martin making his NHL debut tonight. And I am really interested the first 9 games here to see how that goes, because not only is he making his debut, which Andrew Brunette confirmed yesterday, and I mentioned to get his thoughts on this later in the show, but he's playing immediately and he's playing with Forsberg and O'Reilly. It's not like Predators fans all the time
jump right in there,
complain about the young guys not getting an opportunity, which I think at times has been fair criticism, at times probably not so fair with the criticism. Well, this one, they're throwing him right in, man. He's number 1 center.
Right to the top.
I mean,
playing with the big boys.
I know that he and, O'Reilly situationally are going to probably alternate as to who's playing center, but he's the center right now heading into the game. I mean, you're talking about you're playing with Philip Forsberg, which means that there's really no time to like get your feet wet. Like you have to, if you're playing with Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly
They're
on this
expecting
team,
you to produce right
you
now.
have to produce,
Yeah,
right?
otherwise you're not going to win.
Right. Like, I mean, so there's a lot on an 18-year-old, and I am so interested to see how he handles that. Now, the one thing I'll say about him, and you never know until the games actually start, but, Alex Doherty from the Tennessee and I were talking about this yesterday. They clearly trust him a lot, which for an 18-year-old, I think it really says something. Like, they feel like he's going to be in the right position. He knows exactly what to do out there. He's got the foot speed even at 18 to keep up with all these guys. And then we'll see how the physicality and
from what I've been
all
hearing,
that stuff goes.
He's, for an 18-year-old, he's, relatively physically mature.
Yeah.
He's obviously not going to be, physically man strength yet.
Right.
But if you can hold up for a little while, for the most part, maybe he can hold up for the year. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it's not unprecedented for players to come in and play their rookie year at 18, excuse me.
No, like,
so I don't know. It's quite possible.
I mean, if I'm being honest, my expectation for it is that he's probably going to get a look. And then when guys start coming back off injured reserve, like Nick Hague is on injured reserve, Matt Wood is on injured reserve.
They'll need the roster spots.
They'll probably need the roster spots, and he probably goes back to junior. That's my guess. But how cool would it be if he played well enough in the 9 games where he was like, yeah, don't send me back to junior. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready right now. So I think most Predators fans, other than the obvious of the wins and the losses, that's what you're looking for right now is like, can he actually make a case to stick around the whole year? And this is another situation where I just hate this. Well, he's got to play in the NHL or he's got to go to junior hockey. It's like, to me, when you're drafted, you should be able to do whatever you want to do.
That's fair. Yeah. And I guess they would probably, be interesting to see what they would do with that first line.
Yes.
Brady Martin would be gone. So you'd probably move O'Reilly to the center, back to the middle, and move someone up on that wing with them. So, at that point, what do you do there? Does that mess with chemistry? Do you go youngster up there too, like with Brady Martin? Or do you bring up, Marchessault and try and mess with that?
Right.
Or Bunting and see how that goes, more of a veteran presence. So that would, change a little bit of the lineup, tweak a little bit here and there. But that third line looks pretty interesting, huh?
It does. I will say, I was going to say that line has a chance to be absolutely hilarious. Like, and I loved.
Talk about the disturbers.
Oh man, I loved the comment that Bunting had last week, and I forget who he said it to, but he was like, I think the brass here was looking around and they just decided, how can we possibly just make the loudest line possible? Let's put Bunting, Haula, and Marchessault together. I mean, they are going to be chirping people all the time. We'll see how good they are, like in terms of generating offense. We'll see. I have questions about what Eric Haula is at this stage in his career, but I will admit I am very intrigued by that line.
Yeah,
Bunting, Haula, and Marchessault.
I'm a little bit intrigued in general about Bunting this season. He kind of came over in the trade last year. Played a little bit towards the back half of the season, of course, but with the way the season was and the games felt so meaningless at the time, and it was hard to really grasp exactly what he's going to bring to the table on a regular basis. So I'm interested to watch him a little bit more and see how he fits in.
Well, and then on defense, you've got Roman Josi back in there tonight, and obviously there's a POTS diagnosis in the offseason that he was dealing with. Everybody says he's 100% and he's feeling good, and now we're going to see what that looks like beginning tonight. Obviously something we'll keep an eye on all year long with him. And, I was talking to somebody else yesterday about this too. And there's all that going on that's occupying the attention with him right now and what that's going to look like. And, how can he hold up with that throughout the season? And here's the other thing that I've been talking about for a while with this. The other part of all that beyond the POTS diagnosis and obviously, you worry about the concussion stuff and how many of those he's had. I mean, the other part of that is he's 35. So does Roman Josi still have a year or two of really high level play left in him? Or like we see from other people around the league and in sports at 35 years old, is it going the other way? And it would be natural if it is going the other way But that's what I don't know. Like, what sort of year from him are they going to get? Because, as I said yesterday, I think Adam Wilsby's got a chance to be pretty good. I have no idea. I'm very interested when he gets off injured reserve to see how they use Nick Hague and what role he's going to play. But, like, to me, there's a big difference in terms of your outcomes here, depending on what Yossi is. Like, if he's got one more year left of, borderline Norris level play, well, that's one thing. That's a pretty big deal. If he's going the other way at 35, that's quite another. That's like those two very different things.
One thing that Yossi is really that just stands out is his skating. And so I don't think that's going to drop off right off the bat, right?
Well, and even if it does drop off, he's so good at it.
He's still, that second level is not going to be super noticeable.
Right.
He might not be going end to end, all the time like he was 5 years ago. But the way he's just such an elite skater, and he sees the ice so well, I feel like that part in his passing will translate.
Yeah.
Not quite Nick Lidstrom style, but his game was able to translate as he got older. Like
he could probably still play right now.
Yossi is a little bit different in the way he can skate, but some of that stuff will translate. And he's, like I said, I don't know, he's just such a natural skater. Like it's like that Swiss Alps thing, where he's just like, natural skier, and he just can just go like he's some type of cross country guy. And it's so that part I think should translate. I don't know. I think he'll be pretty good this year.
Well, we're going to find out tonight. It is opening night for the Nashville Predators. We'll take your thoughts on that. Andrew Brunette will be with us later in the show at 7:30. So looking forward to that. We got the best and worst things in sports coming up later this hour as well. We'll take your thoughts on the Preds at 615-737-1025. All that coming up. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. You guys, I'm sure, have been chomping at the bit to get after this since April. Just the fact that it's here and that tomorrow's go time, just how exciting is that for you and for the whole group?
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody, we don't want to talk about last year, but I think we had a good little bit of time to decompress as a group. And we came back with a lot of energy, just speaking with the leadership group basically all summer. You could tell after, we kind of took a little bit of break and we got back together that the energy level was high. They're excited. Nobody likes where we were. We think we have better to give. And now we have an opportunity to throw the boat back in here and see what we can do. And it's an exciting time of year, your first game. It's going to be fun to watch the excitement level of some of these young guys with their first NHL start. So really good vibe now. But just a feeling. So we got to work as hard as we can to keep this feeling.
That was Andrew Brunette yesterday after practice. Preds with their season opener tonight, taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets at home. Taking your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. Joey from Bellevue on the text line says, Brady Martin, country strong. He's got this. He'll be fine out there.
Farm boy.
Yeah. Wonder how many times that's going to come up this year.
Too many.
It's like, did you guys know that Brady Martin was on a farm? You know that he works on a farm?
And he did his draft interview from the farm?
Yeah. Will it be like, Ryan Williams from Alabama? He's 17 years old. That's like, really? Was he? I think last year I knew his birthday by heart. They talked about it so much. So we'll see what that looks like as the year goes on. And, you heard it there from Brunette. The vibe, as I talked about in the last segment, everything feels good. The fresh start part of it, I think, psychologically, that can be a really good thing for them.
Dare we say vibing?
Dare we say it? We'll see what happens on that front. But now you got to go out there and you got to prove it. Here's what I want to know from Predators fans as we're sitting here dropping the puck here in just over 12 hours. What do you need to see? Yes, for the season as a whole, but even early on, what do you need to see to restore your faith in this coach and in Barry Trotz and in this plan? Because everybody knows how disappointing last year was. They have been on the wrong side of some moves that have been made lately from a personnel standpoint. There have been some trades that have not gone well for them. They've lost, people like Favreau for free, who, by the way, you'll see him tonight. Like, he's coming in. This will be his first time.
That's right, Columbus.
Coming back. So, like, they're on a run right now of moves that have not gone well. I mean, obviously, Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea, that didn't work out so hot for you last year. So we'll see what those guys look like. But, I'm trying to balance two things here because I remember everybody's excitement level when those moves were made. And the thought was, can you compete? Like, can you get yourself into the playoffs with a chance to compete and win? And obviously, the way last year went, I mean, it feels like that's so far away now. But I try to keep that in the back of my mind and knowing that, as we discussed yesterday, when you look at every list out there, nobody thinks Preds are going to be any good. And if people are guessing who the first coach in the NHL to be fired is going to be, all of those lists have Andrew Brunette at the top of the list. So what do you need to see early on in the year to restore your faith that Brunette is the right guy? Like, it is kind of crazy how similar these two pro sports teams are heading into a season where the expectations are very, very low.
So low. Yeah. And young and expecting a rebuild and a retool and just like a building kind of new process, new coaches kind of on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Didn't go well the last season, high draft picks, that kind of thing. So yeah, I guess a little bit of a rebuild, retool mode for both teams. And as far as what I would like to see just early on from Brunette, I mean, we got to get off to a little bit of a quicker start here.
I think that's it.
It started slow. And if it starts slow again, you got to start. I mean, it's fair to wonder, like, what's going on here?
Well, and I think even beyond, like, obviously you can't have the start you had last year. Like, if you dig yourself in an 0-5 hole, like, that's just very difficult to climb out of. So that's obvious. But, like, I think I need to see, like, let's have even better than just an okay start. Like, let's start. Like, let's get out there and get some wins. That would be what signals to me, Skylar's talking about, play fast, be above 500 after 15 games. That's kind of where I am. Like, start fast, not just start okay, right? Like, they've started poorly in each of the last 2 years. Now, last year it was obviously way worse, but I mean, I think people forget his first year they were 5-10 after 15 games to start. That's not very good. So start really, and the schedule really does not line up great for that. Like there's some tough games that they've got early on. I mean, look, Columbus was pretty good last year. They're very excited about what they're building. They got Utah coming in on Saturday. And then you immediately go out to Canada and you're like Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg. Like it ain't a great schedule to line up for starting fast.
I don't know. Do you think being on the road is a good thing for
I
this
actually
team?
do. I actually
to start, given the whole situation.
I do think being on the road is a good team. Now there are some really quality teams that you're playing.
Yeah, that's
on the
true.
road.
There's a double whammy there.
So that's kind of the double-edged part of the sword. But I do think, look, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for the entirety of it last year because at some point, like you had a lot of veterans on the team. You ought to be able to come together whether you're at home or on the road. But I do think getting out of here together early in the year and being able to have that chance to get out, people talk about bonding all the time. I think that's definitely part of it. But just being able to get away from the distractions and go play hockey, like that to me is more than anything.
Yeah,
is what's important early in the year.
They'll definitely won't be the most talked about team
No.
that week on those trips when they're heading into the town. It's not like they're sitting here all week listening to this. They'll be on the road. It'll be in Canada, and then all the talk will be about all the other teams. Well, so at least I won't have to hear that for the week.
And I'll add one more to it. I mean, obviously, the fast start with the record is the most important thing. But, I mean, looking at the lineup, they are relying on a lot of guys that are either, one, up there in age to play really well for them, or two, way down there in age that haven't done anything in the NHL yet. Like that's a pretty dangerous combination, right? And they are still now it's gotten better this year because they've made some moves. But they are still as an organization pretty light on the 26, 27, 28, 29-year-olds that are impact players
right now, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, one thing that would tell me a lot about Brunette early in the year is on the one hand, can you get the guys who are, your Stamkoses, your Marchessaults, your Brady Sheas, those guys that came in last year and struggled right from the jump and then in some cases got better as the year went on? Can you get them to play really well from the jump, 5-on-5 with your system? And then in other cases, and yes, I include Brady Martin in this, but I think the guys I'm really talking about in this are really two guys. It's Svechkov and Evangelista. Can you get those guys to be productive from the jump? Everybody's going to focus in on Martin, and I get that. I am trying to keep my expectations for him tamed. He's 18 years old. But, to me...
those guys are primed for a next step.
Yeah, they have to have it. If they don't get the next step from Evangelista and Svechkov, this team can't win this year. There's so many other parts that just aren't there yet. They have, Svechkov is going to be playing in a really important role for this team all year. And if he's not ready for it, they don't have anybody else right now. He's got to be the one that does it. So that's probably, beyond the obvious of the win-loss total. How does Svechkov look early on? How does Evangelista look early on? And have the tweaks that you've made at 5-on-5, do those show up immediately, right? Because
the defensive
they've
coverage
got to be
was
way better,
scattered at times last year, you know? And so does it feel more cohesive in the D zone kind of thing? Are they giving up grade A chances right in front of the slot for Saros?
Right.
Or they have that coverage kind of figured out? They're hoping the Perbix and Haig upgrades will help with that, which it should, because they're some big dudes and they got some length and they can block some shots and take up the slot.
Yeah.
So you got to hope that will help on that next level. And it would be nice to see or not hear Marchessault complain about the system constantly this season.
It would. I think that they figured that part out, but if you start losing, does that last?
Maybe we can add that on the checklist for the first week. Let's not have Marchessault blow up about something about the coach, maybe right off the bat. In French Canadian. That's
probably not
Wally's in Toronto.
Probably not a good start. It's wow, they're in Montreal and Marchessault's already barking about the coach. It's a week into the season. What Take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. A new development in the Bill Belichick situation at North Carolina, which is just absolutely insane. We will get into that coming up next. We have the best and worst things in sports coming up later this hour. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. If you're looking for a good spot to watch NFL games on Sunday, come on out to Twin Peaks in Cool Springs, home of the 29-degree beer, and join 1025 The Game for the pregame show before the Titans take on the Raiders. Pregame show brought to you by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Old National Bank. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will have the best and worst things in sports coming up at 6:45 here on the program. So Ollie Connolly, who writes for The Guardian. He's previously been, in the NFL, college football as a scout, a recruiting analyst, and has broken some things on the college football front. he put this out there yesterday on the latest development in the Bill Belichick situation. And this is relatively lengthy, but I will read it in its mostly entirety because I think it's important. So this is what he had to say on Belichick. Quote, per sources, Bill Belichick has discussed buyout options with North Carolina's hierarchy. Belichick has signaled a willingness to trigger his own $1 million buyout if he can find a soft landing with another team or in media. Members of Belichick's coaching staff have already spoken to other schools that are expected to be in the college football playoff about taking on roles during the postseason. From one coach, quote, the Rats are leaving the ship, end quote.
See ya.
Some staffers believe a change will come within 2 weeks. Reports of serious recruiting violations remain under investigation at UNC. Recruiting and practice violations have already been proven by the school, according to multiple sources. Using recruiting violations to knock down a coach's buyout has become a standard practice, which we do know that.
Yes, we do.
Belichick, if he can't find a landing spot to trigger his own buyout, he's expected to accept a greatly reduced compromise rate. Belichick's communication with his staff in the past 2 weeks has been described as, quote, weird and distant, end quote, by multiple members of North Carolina's coaching staff. Yeah. Multiple coaches were unable to get a hold of him during UNC's bye week. And from one UNC defensive assistant, quote, what we've done to these kids is effed up, end quote. So there's a lot there that generated a lot of reaction around the land of college football yesterday.
Didn't the AD
Ian,
have to put out a statement?
To the point where there were statements put out from both Bill Belichick and Bubba Cunningham, the director of athletics. Now, I will say these are the shortest statements I have ever seen put out there in this type of situation ever. This was the statement in its entirety from Bill Belichick. Quote, I'm fully committed to UNC football and the program we're building here, end quote. This was the statement from Bubba Cunningham, the athletic department. Quote, Coach Belichick has the full support of the Department of Athletics and University, end quote.
Nothing to see here.
Not very strong. Not very strong statements on that front. Ian, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was reading this. You know, I remember we had Ryan McGee on from ESPN, who is just awesome. Before
he's tuned in that part of town now.
He lives there. You know, he talked with us about, you know, I've watched North Carolina football for a long time. And I think this thing with Belichick is going to be an absolute disaster. Like he thought that they were just going to be awful.
Just not a good fit.
It is unbelievable to me how bad this has gone. Like, look, I did not expect him to come in and turn North Carolina football into some college football powerhouse. Like I always thought that this, and we talked about this on the show, you know, this stupid mantra they threw out there of turning North Carolina football into like the 33rd NFL team. I was like, yeah, well, good luck with that, because that's not going to happen. But even I, who did not think it was going to go overly well, am stunned at how bad this is. And it's not just on the field. Like they're awful on the field. You know, when they've played Power 4 teams, I think they've lost every game by at least 25 points. So they are horrific on the field. But when you factor in everything that's happened with him, and by the way, not a very long period of time, everything that's happened with him, from the Jordan Hudson situation and how weird that is on its own, and that's just the personal relationship part of it, which, whatever, do your thing, I guess. But involving her in the football operations,
complete 180s hypocrisy,
complete 180s on that front from how he used to handle things. Make sure she's tagged on every email, and then all of a sudden she's on the sideline, and then she's not, and they're trying to shield her as if she's not involved anymore. You got the weird stuff from New England of don't let any Patriot scouts in here, and by God, make sure you're not tweeting about Drake May, even though he was the quarterback here, and there's not a long list of like
awesome
really high level. Yeah, not a long list of really high level North Carolina football players. And then you have this where, you know, the reporting suggests that he's already looking to get out of there, and then maybe they're looking to get him out. Like if it continues to go this way, you know, I heard some people yesterday comparing it to like Urban Meyer in the NFL. It's going to be one of the worst coaching hires and tenures in like the history of sports. That's how bad it's going. And it just continues to amaze me that we're talking about Bill Belichick, in all this.
Yeah.
The guy who won 6 Super Bowls. And look, if you want to take it back further than North Carolina, you can. Because I'll be honest with you.
It's starting to go downhill.
From the moment Tom Brady left there, he looks awful in all this. They went immediately, you know, Mac Jones came in and they were fine for a year. And then they went immediately downhill. He started making stupid decisions and bringing, let's make Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Let's like co-offensive coordinate this thing. That was a total disaster. They ruined Mac Jones in New England.
Bringing his son everywhere.
Yeah, bringing the son everywhere. He's getting fired. And now he wants nothing to do, apparently, with the Crafts and with the Patriots. Like, it is the fall from grace from this guy. I mean, there are going to be documentaries done about this. It's unbelievable.
I mean, it is hard to believe that it's gone downhill this far, this quickly, considering how everything went. And yeah, maybe just in general, him being a college coach at this stage of his career, you know, in hindsight, looking back, probably, you know, trying to build a program in your 70s. Like, you know, I'm not trying to be ageist or anything like that, but this is a long-term kind of situation here. This is not like, I know this is a new version and the new transfer portal and NIL. It's like this whole new era in college football, but to think you're just going to be able to walk in and turn a historically not football program into some powerhouse in like a year or two seemed extremely unrealistic to begin with.
Well, I mean, that isn't that kind of the thing about all this. Like, I think it all comes back to ego, right? I mean, isn't that what this is? Like, it's like,
it feels like it.
Well, trust me, I know better. Like, I'm Bill Belichick. I know better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And look, you know, Joe and I have talked about this before. I think I've had a little bit more patience for this conversation than he has in terms of he had Tom Brady. Of course he won all those Super Bowls. And I think Joe's right. Early in those Super Bowl runs, it's not like they were dropping back with Brady and throwing it 40 times a game. And
the defenses
they had a really good defense.
He was a defensive coordinator.
And look, guys that have played for him have talked about how much of a tactician he was and how great he was. So, like, I have to take that at face value and believe that. Like, he still is, when you look at it, going to go down as one of the greatest head coaches in NFL history. However, with everything that went on before Tom Brady, which was like an average NFL head coach at best, and everything that's gone down since Brady left, like, I can't blame people if you look at it and you say, well, that guy ought to be thanking his lucky stars every day that Brady fell in his lap, because my goodness, if he didn't, he would have never been in the league for more than 4 years. Like, it's crazy.
At this point, I don't think it's unfair to bring up, you know, how many more Super Bowls could they have won if Belichick wasn't the coach? Maybe at some point, did he hold Brady back?
Well, I don't know.
In the second half of their career. I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but like, something has gone off the rails. And
it has, yeah.
Like, something has happened. And maybe, look, I keep coming back to
maybe the whole Brady thing.
The whole Brady split.
Maybe it just broke him.
Yeah, like when Brady leaves and then he goes and wins a Super Bowl elsewhere.
It just something snapped.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way, because it's almost like since then he's been trying to be like
proving everybody
watch
wrong.
This. Well, I'll do this.
Yeah,
and it is just totally backfired. So look, I mean, I guess at this point I'm really interested to see what happens over the next couple of weeks here, because I know they put out their very abbreviated statements from that reporting going on. But like, are we going to be in 2-3 weeks talking about Belichick out at North Carolina? Like, is he not going to make it through the entire season?
I mean, at this point, it's so toxic right now, and you're in the news constantly every week about bad things. Like, you know, I'm not sure if it's worth keeping him around.
Well, and I'll say this, you know, regardless of where you come down on,
especially if you're not going to win, the whole reason people put up with Belichick's BS anyways is because they won.
And he got away out there.
He got away with so much more other crap earlier in his career that other coaches could not get away with because he won.
Yep.
Whether that's Spygate, cheating,
Deflategate,
his hoodie, his sweatshirts, and his clothes, whether that's how he
just a jerk at the press conference,
stiffs fans and kids at the stadium and walks by and just gives them the cold shoulder, or how he was so, you know, unplayer friendly to their families or whatever, or all this other kind of stuff. You know, he got away with it because they won. And so now that he's not winning, it's just kind of maybe he's coming back around full karma.
Well, it's doing some major damage to the legacy. I don't think there's any doubt about that. We'll take your thoughts on the Belichick situation. A lot of your thoughts have rolled in on that. It is time for the best and worst thing in sports as well. We will take your best things, your worst things on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. That's coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game.
The best and worst of the sports week, now on Robby and Rexrode.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is the worst. You look like you're feeling sorry for yourself. I don't even know
He's one of one. He is him.
This is a Coke bottle. It's not a crystal ball.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Okay, let's go.
It is that time of the week, time for the best and worst things in sports. We will take your best things, your worst things on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Hit us up with your best and worst things in the world of sports. Normally, Joe Rexrode going first. He is not here today. Paul Kuharsky, also not here yet. I think he will be at some point. Ian Safar, you're up first, baby. Your best and worst things
I will say
in the world of sports.
Side note here, since we heard Baker Mayfield coming back on our open there, feeling pretty dangerous. I'm not going to make him my best in sports, but I will say I'm a little bit impressed with Tampa and the offense there.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I used to absolutely despise Baker Mayfield. Now I kind of like him.
Yeah,
I kind of do. Like, did you see the video of him chirping back and forth with the Seahawks fans this weekend?
I did see it. I wasn't able to like hear all the back and forth. I wasn't able to like get into it all, zip recruit or as a recruiter style film, whatever. But I mean, their offense, they lost Mike Evans. They didn't have Bucky Irving last week at Seattle. Just put up 38 points.
They're good, man.
Abuka is crushing.
He's
it.
unbelievable as a rookie.
So I've just been impressed with Tampa and Baker, just as a quick side note.
Yeah.
But I think I will pull a little Rexrode here and go best and worst.
Okay.
Same one. I'm going the DeMarcado fumble.
Oh man.
I mean, that right there, it not only did it, well, it's the best because it helped give the Titans the win. Yeah, obviously.
Which we'll take as many of those we can get.
At that point, it's complete turning of the tides there to lead the Titans to a victory. So that's about it. But in the worst, to drop that and the whole situation with Gannon afterwards, getting into his face, giving him more than a love tap, I'd say.
Oh, I would say so too.
Not quite a punch to the gut, but a good slap to the gut. At least he had his pads on still, so it's not like he completely took him out.
Yeah.
But that whole situation, man, that deserves probably a best and worst. It's double swing there.
Yeah.
So I'll give that for Rexrode.
By the way, a lot of former or in some cases current NFL players have kind of weighed in on that. They're like, man, look, I'm not saying it hurt or anything, but if you are a coach and you put your hands on me on the
Slap
sideline,
a player like that,
you better be ready to get some hands back. It's basically been
well, the poor guy looked distraught.
He did.
And he's on the sideline and he's got a big, I think his number 70 offensive lineman like had his arm around him, giving him a good little hug and it's okay, man. You can rest your head on my shoulder, cry on my shoulder.
He's just getting eviscerated.
He just looked terrible. He cost the game. Kyler Murray looked like he was about to cry. And then the coach comes over and yelled, was chewing him out.
Which I get.
Yelling hard in his face.
Yeah.
And then walked by and gave him just like a little, roundhouse right hook right to the chest.
Oh, yeah.
Poor guy. Best and worst in sports this week.
My best in sports, hockey season is back. Connor McDavid signs a 2-year contract, which honestly I thought about my worst because I was really hoping Connor McDavid went to free agency just for the excitement of it all. But from his perspective, look, you got Kirill Kaprizov out there who signed a deal, an 8-year deal, getting paid $17 million per year. I think Eichel signed yesterday for 13.5. Kyle Connor signed for a big number in Winnipeg, 12 point something.
2.5 maybe.
It is kind of amazing that McDavid just said, you know what? I'll sign 2 years and just keep the money the same as it's been for me.
That is crazy, no?
Like he could have gone to the max. He could have gone 20. And he just said, give me 12.5. I mean, I know why he's doing it. He wants to win. And I knew he wasn't going to sign a long contract there because I wouldn't sign a long contract either. Like I'm glad that it's only 2 years for his sake because I would keep every option open as possible. But I just thought that was really cool. You don't see that happen a lot in sports where a guy who could clearly make as much money as he wanted to make. I mean, could have approached the Oilers and said, hey, this is the contract. You sign it, not me. Just said, yep, 12.5. That's fine.
I was surprised it was, I don't know.
NHLPA not going to be happy about that one, though.
Yeah, no. The 2-year bridge deal on that, you know, just giving him a couple more years to win the cup. Doesn't that feel like a little pressury?
I think it's what he's doing. I think he's trying to pressure of like, you better keep going. I'm taking a huge discount and I'm signing 2 years. You better do everything you can do to get this team as competitive as possible. And if you don't, I'm going in 2 years. I kind of like the strategy from it. And a quick side note to that, Matthias Ekholm, one of the all-time great people in the sport of hockey, he signed another deal yesterday that takes him until he's 39.
Good, I didn't see that.
So he's making $4 million a year. So very happy to see that, and it looks like he's going to close out his career in Edmonton, but that'll take him till he's 39.
No, at least he feels like he's in Sweden with the temperature.
Well, there's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. My worst thing in sports, and there's a couple different ways I could go with this, but I think after this weekend, it kind of has to be this. James Franklin in Penn State. How in the world did you lose to UCLA? Like, I don't understand it. I still, for the life of me, can't figure it out. And look, I don't have any sympathy for this because this is what they've all decided to do. But I think it's becoming pretty clear. Like the travel in the Big Ten, clearly a problem, right? Because like there's example after example after example of these teams just going from one side of the country to the other.
USC complained about it.
Not handling it well. And look, I don't buy into that as an excuse. You can't accept all the money and build this super conference and talk about how great you are. And then the moment things go wrong for your team, start whining about the travel. Like, that part of it bothers me. But it is amazing to me. Like, that's one of the more, not that I think Penn State is great, but I mean, UCLA for most of the season, I haven't been convinced could beat Hendersonville High School, much less Penn State. So it's amazing to me that that's the game they won. Like, of all the teams they've played and how bad that Nico and everybody around there has looked, that Penn State is the game that they won through all this. It's incredible to me. My worst thing in sports, James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions.
I think that's fair. I think that's up there. This one kind of hurts me. I kind of thought about, I don't really want to do this, but Pavia, that was, I was disappointed from Pavia this week.
That's fair. I mean, he sets the bar high, but that's two crucial turnovers in the red zone.
Like, I was just disappointed in Vandy in general.
Yeah.
Against Bama. I don't think they played very well. Maybe it kind of caught up with them, but the stretch there of playing a lot of games in a row and Bama the last one and the hype around it. But I was disappointed in that. That's not like my worst thing in sports because, it's not the worst thing ever. But I was disappointed in Vandy and Pavia a little bit this week.
Yep. Travis says, best thing, there's only one right answer here, boys. It's hockey season. Worst thing, my sports attention amongst all the sports that are going on right now, I'm spread very thin.
Yeah.
People talked about this, and we have this conversation. The
October-April conversation. Which one's better? I lean April slightly because I love the playoffs in hockey. It's like my favorite thing in all of sports. However, I mean, start a hockey season in the middle of the NFL season. College football is about to heat up. I mean, October in college football is a great month. I may be switching. It's pretty awesome this time of year. I think October is my choice. October versus April. It's always been pretty close because you combine, like you said, the hockey playoffs with some March Madness, with baseball getting underway. It's spring. It's just like this feeling, of like, okay, we made it through the darkness and we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
But there's no football. The draft is there and the draft is super fun.
Yep.
Especially around here, considering that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
But October, like the weather, a lot of it maybe is tied to the weather. Starts to get cool.
Yep.
A little chilly out there this morning. If you're just waking up, might want to get your jacket out.
Yep.
But the weather changing, starts to get dark. Hockey comes on. The baseball playoffs are on.
It's pretty sweet.
Football is rolling. Yeah. October, you could put that as your best in sports. The week of the month of October, sports rolling. Yeah.
Brian says Penn State losing and watch Jimmy Frank making excuses. He's a Michigan fan. His best in sports. Worst thing in sports. Braves Twitter. All season they complain about Brian Snitker. He steps down, and now they say how great of a manager he is. Says pick a side. Do you love him or do you not?
Welcome to fandom.
That's true. There is a lot of that,
especially on social.
Yep. One vote for the worst thing in sports is Kaprizov. He's good. He ain't that good, and he's signing a $17 million contract. I mean, if you're the Wild, don't you kind of feel like you got swindled?
A little bit.
It's like, okay, so you signed for $17 million. And don't get me wrong, Kirill Kaprizov, great player.
Couldn't have happened to a better person, Craig Leopold.
Yeah. And then you're looking around and you're like, okay, so McDavid signed for 12 and a half and Jack Eichel just signed for 13 and a half. How in the heck did we end up with almost $17 million a year for Kaprizov?
It was fun watching that drama a little bit. Just like, oh, no, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Oh, we're not going to talk about it. Oh, we just turned down the richest deal in NHL history. Don't worry about it. And, oh, it was funny. And they made it happen. I mean, good on them for paying him. But, yeah, they probably feel a little bit misled maybe.
We will get into the Titans and the Raiders coming up next, including one thing I think we're going to be paying attention to for a while around here as it relates to both of these teams and a certain selection that was made. We will get into that. Andrew Brunette, Predators head coach, will join us at 7:30. Charles Robinson coming up at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We got a lot going on in the program today. It's opening night for the Nashville Predators. Predators head coach Andrew Brunette will be with us later this hour at 7:30. So looking forward to that conversation. The Rob Rant coming up at 7:45. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports for his weekly visit coming up at 8 o'clock. So we will get into the Titans and all things NFL with him. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. So the Titans and the Raiders coming up this weekend. And on the surface around the NFL, it's like, oh, great. The Titans and the Raiders
Terrible
are playing
game.
each other. It's a terrible game. It is, from a Titans perspective, one of the games on the schedule, and there aren't very many, that you look at and you say, okay, well, you might have a shot to win that game. The Raiders are bad, and the Colts just absolutely spanked them.
Raiders have been playing terrible.
They are very bad. So it is kind of amazing that they beat the Patriots to begin the year. But having said that,
Week 1's always crazy.
Week 1 is nuts. They are very bad. You know, Brock Bowers is dealing with the knee injury. He did not participate in practice yesterday. So right now, it doesn't look like he's going to play this weekend. We'll wait and see what happens on that front. Pete Carroll kind of left the window open for that earlier in the week. But it kind of takes me back to the draft conversation here, and I think it's going to be interesting to monitor this moving forward, because I think back to 2024 and heading into it, we all knew the Titans needed help on the offensive line. They ended up drafting J.C. Latham, who, by the way, hopefully he plays and plays well this week. And, you know, me and several others were like, you know, that Brock Bowers is pretty good, man. I know he's a tight end, and I know they need help on the offensive line, but, man, they need help a lot of places. I'd be awfully tempted to take Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers ends up having just a fabulous rookie season, and I know he's hurt right now, but there's a huge difference when he's in the game and when he's not in the game for the Raiders.
I heard Pete Carroll on Sirius XM actually yesterday afternoon doing his interview weekly there, and he talked about them missing Bowers and what he does for the middle of the field for them, and how he, you know, without Bowers, he even said without Brock in there, they've been struggling.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, what he does for them in the middle of the field, I think, has been a big difference.
Well, think about this as a rookie, okay? So as a rookie last year, he had 112 catches for 1,194 yards and 5 touchdowns as a tight end as a rookie. Like, that is crazy.
It's pretty good.
They targeted him 153 times last year. So I say all that to say, you know, people have heard our conversation on this show about J.C. Latham before, right? And you took a guy 7th overall at the time to be your franchise left tackle. They've already made the decision to move him to right. We've talked about that. There's no use in rehashing it now. But I've said over and over again that J.C. Latham, being a good right tackle, to me, is not good enough. He needs to be an elite right tackle in this league. Number one, because he was drafted 7th overall, and you don't draft tackle 7th overall to be like decent players. Like, he needs to be a great player at right tackle. But number two, as time goes on here, I think a lot of Titans fans already asked the question when it happened, but are certainly going to continue to ask the question of, you know, Brock Bowers won a few picks after that, and you could have had that if you were the Tennessee Titans. So what sort of a career, like, look, as long as Bowers stays healthy, right? And I understand that it's a violent game and your fate, your NFL career can change at any moment out there. So assuming health, like, Brock Bowers is going to be one of the elite players in this league for a long time. Again, I just read you the numbers. 112 catches for 1,194 yards, 5 touchdowns last year as a rookie. And he plays for the Raiders, right? Plays for the Raiders.
Yep.
Okay. So I think we know if he stays healthy, he's going to be probably the best tight end in football for a long time. So how good does J.C. Latham have to be for you as a Titans fan to look at it and say, you know what? We could have had Brock Bowers, but J.C. Latham is really, really, really good, so I'll take it. I understand, we're talking about a skill player and an offensive lineman. So people in this conversation are always going to lean skill player, and I get that because I do too. But it does, I think there's a lot of things that we pay attention to in terms of draft comps and where guys go, how close they are, and especially those first few picks, either right before you or right after you, I think you pay attention to. I think Titans fans are going to be monitoring Latham and what he does, and then looking around and being like, whoop, Brock Bowers is out there. I think this really increases the pressure on J.C. Latham.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, last year his court and Bowers was playing with Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah.
It's not like, Drew Brees is out there throwing him the ball. And he still put up pretty good numbers on a bad team.
Yeah.
And, he's an SEC guy, Georgia, so that doesn't help around here. Of course, the hype is already bigger for SEC guys. So You pass the SEC guy. Oh, I saw him do whatever against my Vols, and now look at him here. So, that always plays a role in things.
Well, and to that point, Ian, I don't Brock Bowers being this good in the NFL doesn't really surprise me. If you watched him play at Georgia, it's that guy's unbelievable.
They used him a lot of different ways at Georgia, out wide, screens, blocking, in the red zone. Yeah. They used him a lot of different ways. So it's only fair that you could use them a lot of different ways in the pros. And, tight end is not the position it used to be. It's way more versatile out wide, in the slot, moving around. You saw what Arizona does with Trey McBride.
Yeah.
There's, what your Packers do with Tucker Kraft. There's your inline blocker. And then there's your movement guy. I guess the Titans kind of have a miniature version of that with Helm and Chig right now.
Yeah.
And so, there's ways to make a tight end premium pick worth the value.
Well, and that's the thing. We're already talking redraft of 2024. And, I realize it's insanely early for that type of conversation, but the more you look at it, the more amazing it is that Bowers went 13th. It's I understand he plays tight end, and tight end is not, it's not quarterback. It's not edge rusher. I don't know if it's necessarily on your premium position list, but when you get a great one, it just can change what you can do on offense, right? I understand that early in his career, Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. So that's obviously a huge deal. But, he's won without Tyreek Hill, and it's not exclusively because of Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce's been a huge part of that, right? And it looks like Brock Bowers is going to be that type of guy. That's how good he looks there. And it's just amazing that – and look, Latham was taken 7th, Bowers was taken 13th. So it ain't just the Titans, right? The Bears took Roma Dunze, and he's looked good so far this year. Yeah, but, Fashanu went at 11 to the Jets.
He's been whatever.
There's some quarterbacks sprinkled in there. So you got Penix at 8, you got McCarthy at 10, and you got Bo Nix at 12 to Denver.
Yeah.
And I do think taking quarterbacks different, right? You're trying to take a shot on your franchise guy.
Well, it brings kind of a draft philosophy, again, that we always talk about, need versus best player available. Right. The Titans kind of felt like they went for need.
Yeah.
Because they needed a tackle. Joe Alt got snagged.
Yep.
And so they just went with Latham.
Exactly.
Whether or not they actually thought he was the 7th best player, it's hard to argue that, or it's hard to believe that he would be the 7th best player in a draft.
I agree.
At that,
And look, I think he might be really good. I do. But
7th best player in the draft, best player? That means you have to be a top 2 right tackle in the league.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Or a top 5 right tackle in the league at least.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't know that enough's being talked about with this.
And so if you go best player available, do you take Bowers, or were they reaching for need?
Right. It's a good question, and that we'll never get, I don't think, an honest answer out of that. But it goes back to, bringing it back to Latham. It's unfortunate we've not seen him this year. He's played for 2.5 quarters or whatever it is. So there's no real way to judge it. But when he's back, and hopefully that's this week, I just think when you're looking at it, you need him to be great. I'm not, being decent isn't good enough. And I said it to begin the season, and I'm going to stick by it now. And I know the injuries can derail things. But one of the takeaways that they need to have at the end of this year is that they feel like Latham is going to be a great player for them for a long time at right tackle. And if you're not feeling that way at the end of the year, if that's still up in the air, to me, that is a tremendous disappointment at the end of the season. We'll take your thoughts on all this. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. Andrew Brunette is coming up at 7:30. All that head, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
How's it looking for Latham?
Positive for him. We'll see how the week goes, but so far this week has sort of met the benchmarks necessary to keep pressing forward and hopefully get him some work at practice this week.
That's Brian Callahan yesterday discussing J.C. Latham, who will hopefully be back this week against the Las Vegas Raiders. Robbie Stanley, Ian Safar, Paul Kuharsky here with you on the program. PK, we were just talking about Latham, and I'm dating this back because of obviously the Titans-Raiders game coming up. We'll see what Brock Bowers' status looks like. But you're the Titans. You have a huge need at tackle. You make the decision to draft J.C. Latham at number 7. Brock Bowers goes a few picks later at number 13 to the Raiders, and he has an unbelievable rookie year. And I've said this many times, like, I don't think the Latham part of this is being talked about enough around here. Like, he has to be a great player at right tackle. One of the things you need to walk away from at the end of this season is that he, despite him being drafted to be your franchise left tackle and you switching to right, which already irritates me a little bit, I'm fine with it if you walk away at the end of this season and a couple years down the road and he is a great player at right tackle. But when you take him at number 7 overall, that's what you need him to be. And then PK, you couple that with a few picks later at 13, Bowers gets taken at 13, and it looks like he is going to be like a generational tight end. I just think there's a lot of pressure on J.C. Latham to end up being a great, great player for this franchise for a long time. And that needs to happen, needs to start to happen this year. We got PK pulling a Rexrode on mute right now.
Yeah, and it would be nice and tidy if he had a nice game. I mean, we don't know if Bowers is going to play. Like you said, it would be nice and tidy if Latham could come right out of the gate and do good work in this game against Max Crosby. Odds are more likely that he's a little bit rusty, and that we're talking about him, hopefully doing reasonably well, easing back into the lineup. But boy, it would be something for them if he came back in, help the offensive line go even a little bit further than it's gone the last 2 weeks. And you said, well, there's our complete offensive line with our final piece. And it was a neat and tidy storyline, kind of like you're talking about, a guy that we took ahead of Bowers, and Bowers didn't have a great game against us, because we defended him well, and our guy that we took ahead of Bowers completed our offensive line and played well. There's a little bit of a storybook kind of thing that I think we all consider probably pretty unlikely. But in the end, that's what we need. They need to happen in order for the roster to continue to build in a way that gets them where they hope they're going.
Well, again, I think we're going to follow this for years. I understand the Latham pick. I really do. Like, they could not get anything figured out at tackle, and they needed a tackle. So, like, I get it. I would love to know, PK, and I don't know that we're ever going to get like the actual answer on this. I would love to know, when they graded these guys, did they actually have J.C. Latham as a higher grade than Brock Bowers? Or because of how big of a need tackle was, and tight end not being a quote-unquote premium position, although I think it's becoming more and more of a premium position, did they just go for what they absolutely needed? Like, I don't think it was a surprise to no one that they took a tackle heading into that draft. I would love to know at the time what their actual grades were on these players, though.
You wonder, too, and also, this was an odd front office, right? You wonder, and I know if there are people, thinking of somebody specific, but if there are people upstairs, they're hearing this conversation and probably shudder at the thought. But you wonder if that gets baked into the grade, either intentionally or unintentionally, the need level
right
of the position compared to it. I wonder if that happens generally speaking, like if high-ranking corners and left tackles and edge rushers just get graded higher at the top of the draft,
yeah,
than a position like tight end.
No, I definitely think that happens. And look, sometimes
they don't get graded high, Robbie. They certainly get taken high.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly like they certainly get taken higher. Like, there's no way that you can, and we know this. Like, there's no way you can convince me that, despite what these people say when they get up to the podium, I was like, yeah, he was our number one guy left on the board. I mean, there's no way that's the case every time. Like, need factors into this a lot, and particularly when it's a need at a premium spot, right? Like when it's a tackle, when it's an edge rusher, certainly when it's a quarterback. Like, look, I mean, you could have that case this year. Do we actually believe that the Titans had Cam Ward as their number one rated player on the entire board? Like, do you believe that? Because I don't. Like, but it's quarterback. And I know quarterback's different, right? Like, quarterback is a different thing. But, like, that happens all the time in the NFL.
On their need adjusted board, he was number one. Yeah.
Exactly. And look, I quarterback, I get it. Like, it's the elevator, right? It's the position that if you figure it out, it takes care of a lot of your things in the franchise. So I get it. But I just think, like, if you're a Titans fan, you're going to be watching this for a long time. And, you had Penix go after that, McCarthy go after that, Nix go after that. And I think quarterback's different. But, like, the position players other than quarterback taken right before Bowers are Latham at 7, Fashanu at 11 by the Jets, and then Bowers at 13. And you watch Bowers have 112 catches for 1,100 yards his rookie year. And if you're a Titans fan, it's like, well, that could have been us there. I just think that, along with everything else, there's just so much pressure on J.C. Latham to be great. Like, he has to be like a borderline all-pro player to me when this thing is all said and done.
And I understand if I'll do the devil's advocate thing. Like, say J.C. Latham ends up not an all-pro, but a plus player at that position for the Titans, which they've looked to settle down forever. And Brock Bowers turns out to be what Brock Bowers is going to turn out to be. I mean, if you look at them strictly against each other, absolutely, you're going to want Brock Bowers. But I think there is a world in which you could get a Titans executive to say it was more important for us to get the offensive line settled down after all we went through at that position with a plus player before getting to a luxury like Brock Bowers. And there's going to be a time when we can do that, but it just wasn't then. I even saying it like that, you can hear the tone of my voice,
yes,
right? I'm convincing myself. But I do believe there's a world where people believe and act that way. And if they took Brock Bowers, I think we'd be enjoying watching Brock Bowers, but Cam Ward would be getting hit more.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd be bitching about the offensive line. I'll tell you that.
Well, there is no doubt about that. Coming up next, we're going to be joined by Predators head coach Andrew Brunette. It's opening night for the Predators. We'll get his thoughts on a new NHL season that is now upon us. That's coming up next. This Sunday, the NFL game of the week, the Cowboys taking on the Panthers at noon on Sports Talk 830. The NFL game of the week presented by Circa Sportsbook Kentucky and Macero in 12 South. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you. Preds open things up tonight, baby. It is hockey time again here in Tennessee, and to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Predators head coach Andrew Brunette to the program. Andrew, welcome back. Really appreciate you joining us this morning on the program. How you doing?
Good, Robby. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, I mean, as you know, Andrew, there's a whole lot of work that goes into this moment, right? I mean, you guys are putting together the roster this offseason. You're making your tweaks. You're making your adjustments. You've gone through camp at this point. So what is today like for you and the coaching staff as you're kind of getting through all this work, and now tonight it's the real thing again, and you're back in the swing of things?
Well, I'd say finally, probably exciting day. Obviously it was a longer off season than we're expected. There's a lot of work to do, as we all know. And it was a process. It was a fun process. It was I thought our communication as a staff, as an organization, as players really, took another step, which I think is going to be great. And we pieced it together all summer. A lot of get-togethers, a lot of meetings, a lot of talking, and then we finally got the opportunity to put it all in action, starting probably 3 weeks ago, and really thought camp went really well. I thought it was very competitive. The influx of youth brought a lot of energy, and a lot of fighting for different positions all the way through the lineup. So a lot of good things. I think we took steps as camp went on. Some of our adjustments felt a little bit more comfortable, and here we go.
So, Andrew, I mean, you're well aware more than anybody of how important Roman Josi is to this team. The POTS diagnosis this offseason. I was out of practice yesterday. He looks great. He's flying around out there. What have you seen from him in camp, and how big a boost is it, with the way last year ended with him being out, to get him back in the fold here as things open up tonight?
Well, one, getting him back kind of means everything. Obviously, he's our best player, and we missed him, and it was a tough year, obviously, for all of us, but I think for him in particular, trying to figure out what was going on. And, he battled through, he tried to give his best foot forward. We really didn't know exactly what's going on. So when I see him this year, the word that comes to mind is free. I think now that he knows, and now that he's diagnosed, now he's taking care of it, now he feels really good. And there's a little freedom in that. And you could see that on the ice. He carries everything so heavy. Obviously things would happen, but I think for me, he feels free. And I think the big reason he feels free is he understands what's going on. I think it's a little bit, you carry that extra weight when you're not sure, is it a concussion or is it not a concussion? Is it what's going on? I don't feel great. So now he's got a little bit of freedom that he knows what it is. He feels comfortable with what it is, and he's ready to go. So as a coach, as an organization, to see that is very, very reassuring, because the game's not the same when we don't have Roman with us.
Hi, Andrew. It's Paul Kuharsky. Good morning. When did you start thinking Brady Martin had a realistic chance of making the opening night roster, and how did he impress you?
Yeah, coming in, I wasn't sure. I mean, obviously, you don't know. I wasn't scouting the player, so you're trying to, kind of get accustomed and get your eyes on him a little bit. Did that through the rookie tournament. Really liked what I saw, and then he came to camp, and it was hard not to like what you saw. And with Brady, he's every step so far, he's exceeded the expectation for a young player. Put him in, and tons of credit to Phil Forsberg. I thought throughout camp, even pre-camp, take him under his wing, show him the ropes, being patient with them, where it's, I've been on the other end of the stick when you play with veteran players, especially decorated veteran players like Phil. A lot of times I don't have time for a young kid, and speaks not just to Phil, but I think for our whole leadership group, I think they've taken that on, and they've understood, that this is the way we're going. We got some young players that are going to need help, and if we're going to go to where we want to go, we're going to need them, and we're going to need the best version of them. And they've taken that on, every single one of our veterans. But back to Brady, I just think he went through the exhibition games. I thought he had a really good start, kind of stubbed his toe a little bit in Tampa. And I think, if you look back, I think it was just rest. I was worried about him that game. He played, he played up in Clarksville. He played through camp, played the rookie tournament, played the first two exhibition games. So it was a little bit of a drop off, and the big test was last Saturday against a really good, pretty much NHL caliber top 10 team in Carolina, maybe top 5 team last year. And I thought he answered the bell, and that line was very effective. So to me, that was the moment for me, like, okay, we got to give him a chance and let's see where it goes. And he's got another great opportunity tonight. And every opportunity that's been given to him, he's flew with flying colors. So I expect him to handle tonight.
What do you like about the line of Jonathan Marchessault, Eric Halla, Michael Bunting, and what prompted the Junkyard Dogs tag?
Well, I think they've driven us all through camp. And they have that ability to be a little bit of a junkyard dog. They're highly competitive players that got a little grease to them, especially around the net or on the boards, and they're constantly talking either to each other or to the other team. So it really brings up a lot of the energy and a lot of the identity line most of camp here for us. They've dragged us in the fight, and that's the type of line we're looking for going forward. And hopefully they can keep the little chemistry they have going through camp throughout the season.
So, Andrew, I mean, you guys have talked about this, the 5-on-5 play heading into this year and the improvements that you're looking for there. And I'm not asking you to take us through, the minutia of the adjustments you've made. But generally speaking, when you're looking at 5-on-5 play and trying to improve that heading into this year, what do you need to see? What is kind of the plan of attack in terms of making sure that the 5-on-5 play is where you want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think you take a hard look at everything, especially at the end of the year when you got those couple months to decompress and kind of dove down into a lot of the numbers and a lot of the things that I saw with the eye test, and some glaring deficiencies, ran forward, things we had to clean up. Part of it to me is mindset, number one. I think you have to be in the right mindset regardless of what adjustments. I think every team in the league plays some sort of system that works. And it takes buy-in. It takes that mindset, that commitment that we're gonna play a certain way. So I think for us, there was some things that really stuck out. Obviously we did not help Juice enough. So I think in the offseason, Barry added some bigger defensemen that helped clean the porch a little bit. Obviously we went through I don't even know how many defensemen last year. I don't know if it was 12 or whatever the number was. So a little bit of solidarity back there, but also a little bit of buy-in and a commitment to the defensive zone and to the other side of the puck a little bit more. And, a collaboration with a lot of the veteran players, a lot of leadership players of some things that both of us can improve on. But again, the main focus, the main idea is mindset. Are we willing to commit? Are we willing to buy in? It doesn't matter what system you have. If you don't have that, it's not going to work. And all through camp, I feel with the communication, we've all kind of bought into what we're doing. And tonight, it's going to be a big test to see how that goes.
So, Andrew, I know there's a very limited sample size from Adam Wilsby to this point. We didn't see a lot of him last year, and obviously gets hurt at the end of the year. I really liked what I saw from him a year ago. I know you guys have been high on him in camp to this point. So as you watch him and as you've seen him kind of develop over the last couple of years, what sort of a player do you think you've got there in Wilsby, and how big a deal is it to have him on your blue line to start this year?
Yeah, I mean, we got a great taste of him last year. I thought he stepped in, and like you said, Robby, I thought he played outstanding. Unfortunately, he got hurt. He came in the camp, arguably our best defenseman early on. But he's in a position here with Roman. Obviously, unfortunately lost Nick Hague early in camp, and he's risen to the occasion. And it's in a tough spot, and it'll continue to get harder on him. Being that number one pairing night in and night out, playing with Roman. The other team's going to get the best out of him every night. So we'll see where he's at. But he's had a really good camp. He does a lot of the things systematically that we really like. We're, not only we add a little bit of size, but I think we're a very mobile defense core, and he closes gaps, as quick as anybody that I've seen in a long time, dating back to, the old Duncan Keith, Hjalmarsson, Freddie Aduya lines in Chicago, where those defensemen controlled the neutral zone. And Adam does that really, really well. And we're looking forward to continue that. This isn't a finished product, and he's going to continue to grow, and he's got a great opportunity to do so. So I think for him, he's excited. For us, organization, his coaching staff, we're excited what he brings.
Andrew, last thing for you here. Obviously, a huge opportunity for Svechkov heading into this year, and probably got into the league earlier than anticipated last year, but held his own, got through it, and now has a big chance in front of him this year on the team. So how do you feel about where he is heading into the season, and what have you liked about kind of his growth, his evolution as a player as things get going here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the evolution of a young player. I thought he came up last year under difficult circumstances, especially where we're at, and we kind of went through some injuries, and we need some help in the middle of the ice. And I thought he came in, played really well. And then he kind of hit he flatlined a little bit and went down. And a lot of, I guess, tribute to his character, he went down the American League and tore it up, and played to the highest abilities. A lot of times you see that with young players, they go down and they hit a lull, the NHL, and they're, where they kind of flatline. They sort of feel sorry for themselves. They're kind of lost a little bit. And kudos to Svetch. He went down and played better when he's down there, deserved another call up. And I thought he had a really good second half of the year for a young player. Obviously, there's lots of ups and downs, but I thought he handled himself really well. And then in training camp this year, I thought he started off just a little slow, but I thought he got going. I thought he played better every game through camp. I thought his Saturday night game was his best game, and he had a great week of practice. So, again, another young player with a lot of, great opportunity to play with some really good players in a position that to come in as a second or third line center in the NHL. And this, that's exciting for him and put in a great spot. So we're working with him. His faceoffs has gotten better. His whole game's got better. He's going to be a good player. And this is a good opportunity that we're going to need him. Again, back to the veteran leadership, playing with Stammer. I think Stammer's done a really good job with the communication, talking to him, helping him out, trying to get the best version of Svetch, because we all know we're going to need it.
Well, Andrew, you're always really kind with your time. We appreciate you taking time to be with us. It's an exciting time of year. We're happy to get it going tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Robby, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Andrew Brunette, our guest here on the program. Preds opening up their season tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Take your thoughts on that, 615-737-1025. We'll have the Rob Rant coming up next. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Son, you just listen to me. Things are going to be fine.
Oh, yeah, you've always colored glasses.
Welcome back to the Fat and Bald Show.
Duval.
I suck. I am the worst ever.
I want an ice cream, and I want a hot dog, and I want Rand Fire, and I want a hamburger.
Like I said, I'm Ron Burgundy. It is that time of the day, the Rob Rant, here on 102.5 The Game, brought to you by Functional Medicine of Tennessee. Rise up to better health. Check them out at functionalmedicineoftennessee.net. PK, I want to take you on a journey today.
Please. I love journeys.
So I live in a quiet part of Middle Tennessee. There's not a whole lot going on out there, which frankly, I love. It's one of my favorite parts about it. Not a whole lot happening. You can just kind of move around where I'm at. You don't really get stuck in traffic all that much. And it's pretty great. I thoroughly enjoy it. So I'm kind of, just casually weaving through my neighborhood the other day and get to a stop sign, and all of a sudden this Jeep comes by and passes, and it's like, okay, well, there's another Jeep right behind. Well, that's odd. It's 3 Jeeps in a row that I've seen right there together. And the next thing I know, I'm stuck at this stop sign for every bit of 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes where Jeep after Jeep after Jeep is just going. And I can't turn. I'm trying to turn left. They're just going. They've got the ducks on the dashboard, which apparently is this big Jeep thing where rubber ducks are placed all over the dashboard. And
that's just a Jeep society thing.
Yeah, apparently so.
Weird. I've seen it a lot, but it's still weird.
It's very strange to me. So, no lie, at this point, there's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 Jeeps that have just passed me and are continuing to follow each other, one after the other, right behind each other. So, of course, the last one passes, and I eventually turn to the left and get behind all these people on a road where the speed limit is 40 miles an hour.
Trouble's coming. You're telling this well.
The trouble is coming. So I look down, we're kind of moseying along, and I'm like, man, that's a whole lot of Jeeps. I wonder what's going on here. And I'm vaguely familiar with, apparently these people in Jeeps, they do these get-togethers and they just drive around and hang out with each other, which is fine. Do your thing. I don't really know where you're going. Like if you're driving in separate vehicles, kind of defeats the purpose to me, but whatever. I'm sure they end up somewhere and hang out together.
Okay,
that's great.
It's kind of like the jet ski community. Like
it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that all plays out. So we're going, and I'm thinking about that, and all of a sudden I look down at my speedometer, and 18 miles an hour is flashing up on the screen. 18 miles per hour, and we're just weaving and ducking, and at one point I'm ending up right on the heels of this Jeep going 18 miles an hour, which means I'm going faster than the Jeep is going at that time. And this road, about 3 miles long. When I tell you it took like 6 minutes to get down this road, and then people are you can see people leaning their head out the window, looking at stuff. There's nothing out there except like cow pastures and a few barns. And I think they were smoking some tobacco in the barns out there, all these different things. So nice picturesque stuff. People are taking photos. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, go! What are you doing? 18 miles an hour is what I'm going down this road. Here's my message to these people. If you want to have your little hangouts and you want to drive together in Jeeps and you want to put your rubber ducks on the dashboard, by God, you knock yourself out. I don't understand it, but people love it. People obviously do it. They got 40 grown adults to get together in the same place and participate in this at least. So I know how difficult that is to pull off. So knock yourself out if that's what you want to do. But I feel like if you're going 20-something miles an hour under the speed limit, I should have the right to challenge all of you to a fight at the same time. Like I should be able to physically punch you if that's the way that things are going there. 18 miles an hour on the 40-mile-an-hour road is completely and totally unacceptable. If you're going to have this Jeep brigade together, go the speed limit. That's all I ask. You don't have to speed. You don't have to go crazy. But approach the speed limit. My message to Jeep drivers everywhere. This is not your world. Some of us have places to be. Hop out of the way with a little bit more speed to you next time, PK.
It sounds to me like it's almost like you interrupted either a parade or a funeral procession.
It
Now,
kind of felt that way.
Clearly wasn't a funeral procession. And parades are you're supposed to have some notice and some distinction. So it clearly wasn't either of those, but they were acting like one. And I too would have been incredibly frustrated. I understand like the communal feeling of I don't share it, but like I drive an Accord and I see other Accord people and we don't have some communal bond. So it's nice that these people have a communal bond, but they can't disrupt traffic flow for it.
Totally absurd. Speed it up out there in your Jeeps. Now, PK, I would like to give you this opportunity before we get to Charles Robinson to express your thoughts on what I'm sure was an emotional and disappointing night for you as the New York Yankees season comes to an end. How do you feel? What's going to happen with Aaron Boone? What should happen with Aaron Boone? How are we doing today?
Yeah, it's not good. I mean, I annually have these October problems, where I don't feel good about myself when it has nothing to do with me. Look, Blue Jays better team for sure. But I don't do this thing, and I don't like that this is how we work in American sports, where very quickly after our team loses, we get into kind of season wrap-up mode. Well, it was a good year, all of that. I stay pissed for a few days before I get to that, and so I'm pissed. They should have been the best team in the AL, had home field advantage, which might have flipped things. I don't think it would have. Toronto's better. They play contact baseball, and they don't strike out a lot. And the Yankees still had defensive problems. The things that bite them in the ass bit them in the ass, and they lost to a better team. I just wish that they would be honest with themselves when they get to the point of going forward and deal with some of these things in a real fashion. I really don't think firing Aaron Boone fixes much, because he's a middleman that's employing analytics that are commanded to him by upstairs, and it's a Brian Cashman problem. And that guy is like the Pope. And we need a new Pope. That's my theme. But what they're going to say is, they were in the World Series last year, and they made the playoffs and went around deep this year without Garrett Cole, their top starter, and having pieced together a pretty good lineup a year after losing Juan Soto. And that's exactly what they'll say, and we'll all be sick of it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens on that front. I do have to get this text from Tyler. Says Paul has a get together with other Accord people driving 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, because we know that's his thing. It's like
that would be what we do. 21 miles over the speed limit.
They are
by the way.
buzzing out here in the Accords.
I have signed up for. Yeah, we have a funeral procession. We're in a real hurry to get to the burial so that we can get to the meal.
These people are flying out here. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Good stuff there, Tyler. We will be joined by Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports coming up next. We'll get into the Titans and all things NFL with him. Looking forward to that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Charles Robinson to the program from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning, brother. How we doing?
What's going on, gents? How you doing this morning?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Charles, there's a lot of places to go here. I don't really know where to start, so I guess I'll just start here. The Amari DeMarcado situation, dropping the football in the Titans-Cardinals game this last week. You got Jonathan Gannon and the altercation on the sideline with him. In the aftermath of that, the Cardinals finding him $100,000. I guess a couple things on this. Number one, how in the world do these NFL players keep dropping the football before they run into the end zone? That continues to just be a mystifying thing to me. And then what did you make of kind of the aftermath of that, from the Titans winning the game to the Jonathan Gannon situation and the blowback that's happened since then?
Yeah, the dropping the ball thing is just, I mean, it's wild to me. I mean, you go, I was thinking about it, and I remember, I think the first time I ever saw anybody do it, I was watching the U.S. Army All-American game. I don't even remember what year it was, but I think I saw Deshaun Jackson do it in that game. And I thought, that's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever seen anybody ever do. And I thought, I'll never see that again. and then the NFL, obviously it's been delivered to us multiple times over Corley, Malachi Corley, obviously. You've never scored a touchdown in the NFL because the one moment you had with the Jets last year, you drop it before you get over the goal line. And then obviously we see, A.D. Mitchell and then Amari DeMarcado in back-to-back weeks. It's inexplicable to me. And I've never seen, though, the destructive, I guess, power of it in a game where, as I'm watching the play unfold, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I was watching on Red Zone when it happened or if I had been watching the game live at that moment, but I remember just thinking like, oh, that's it. They crushed him. It's over. I think it texted you and Joe. And I was like, in that moment, I think I'm like, okay, so this is like, is Callahan going to survive the night?
Right.
And then we just see everything completely shift and fall apart for the Cardinals. And I'll tell you what, I will say this. I spent time with Jonathan Gannon multiple times over the last couple of years, extremely intense individual. And I knew in that moment, I was like, this could be something. Like this is, knowing how he is and the intensity that he has, I was not surprised at all to see his reaction on the sidelines. And the fine was appropriate. I think the fact that he came out the next day and said he apologized to DeMarcado, spoke to the team, apologized to the team, knew he had kind of done something in that moment that wasn't right. You kind of knew that this was going to go into territory where it could potentially be a fine. And I just from texting to people with the union, you can't. The contact between a coach and a player in that moment definitely crosses a line, and it was different than what we'd seen between like Travis Kelce and Andy Reid. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm curious to see how this manifests for the Titans to get a win like that, because you're like, okay, you got to win, so it's a positive. But I mean, is it how do you carry that to the next week? It's not like a commanding win. It's not like, when you see a win and the win is played out the next day in memes where it's like Benny Hill music and showing everything wrong that the Cardinals did, you're kind of like, I don't know how much the other team could take from this. But yeah, I mean, I guess you take them where you can ultimately get them. And, I'm also curious to see how it, what it does to the Cardinals as well, because it's a team that's got talent, but I mean, they're very limited in offense, and that can be a moment that, your team spirals a little bit, and it's just, I'm very fascinated to see where it goes for both franchises.
I just hate that the guy that makes a stupid play ends up in a situation where he becomes the victim.
Sure.
That becomes story. We've got to blot out this from football. What do you make of Cleveland's quarterback situation going forward now after the gigantic Joe Flacco trade? And part B of that is, what do you think the Bengals would get out of Joe Flacco?
Well, I tuned in to Kevin Stefanski yesterday because I was just like, I want to hear what this sounds like, because this is such a left turn from what you knew about the internal workings of the organization and what Stefanski wanted in terms of having a veteran in the number 2 quarterback spot. Like Dylan Gabriel, clearly, when it comes to Stefanski, he's the chosen rookie between he and Shedeur in terms of who knows the offense, who can go out there and operate, and then structurally having a qualified veteran to be in that number 2 support role, who he trusts, who can operate the offense, and then going into a Sunday, just having it set up the way he wanted. And so when Flacco got traded, I was like, there's no way. I thought in my mind, I was like, there's no way Kevin could have been a part of this. There's just no way. And then listening to his press conference, clearly he wasn't. He even though he said, look, Andrew Barry and I, the general manager, we talk about these trades, we talk about things. But he kept, he said a couple of times, he pointed really clearly at Barry and said, I trust him. I trust his decisions. Okay, well, that's on Barry. This is 100% in Andrew Barry's lap. And I expect Bailey Zappi will end up being the number 2 quarterback, depending on, if Kevin ultimately makes that decision completely on his own. I don't see any scenario where he wants a rookie backing up a rookie going into a Sunday, particularly a rookie in a support role in Shedeur, who does not have the grasp of the offense the way that Dylan Gabriel does. Just doesn't. It's nonsensical, I think, at this point to sort of pitch it that way moving forward. And you could see it, or you could hear it, in Kevin in yesterday's press conference. And I'm like, man, this guy's trapped inside a nightmare right now. Like he's got to be freaking out because he's just, lost control of exactly how he wanted the quarterback room set up. And you've done it just to swap a draft pick now. And clearly the Cleveland Browns are open for business. You've seen the trades. Greg Newsome is someone that when the Lions had Terrion Arnold go down, I was texting with guys around the league, and they're like, hey, man, I bet you they make a call to the Cleveland Browns about Greg Newsome. And Arnold, the news came back a little better than the Lions thought. I think that removed some of the inclination to make quickly move out there to get a corner. But, see the Jaguars make that move. Tyson Campbell obviously it's not working out there the way that they had imagined. So they get 2 guys a fresh start. But, the Browns are, this is a heck of a mess. And I think, we'll see what happens with Gabriel through the rest of the season now. But the nightmare that they could have invented by drafting Shedeur in the 5th round after taking Gabriel in the 3rd, they're experiencing it right now. And that hive, by the way, it's, I will say, of all the years I've covered things, I said something, I ripped Shedeur for miming, pantomiming things when Dylan Gabriel got the job. I ripped ESPN for being this echo chamber of this ESPN employee says this about him, and then it gets played on this show, and then this show comes up with a new opinion, and then a new opinion, and the next thing you know, you got Adam Schefter out here trying to explain why Shedeur's pantomiming based on something Rex Ryan said. And I kind of ripped ESPN. I said, and by the way, I said, look, we at Yahoo are part of the problem too. We've played into this. We've leaned into this. We've written Shedeur a million times, talked to, about Shedeur ad nauseum. But, it's ridiculous how this is elevated into this cult status. Man, did the hive go crazy. I mean, it was just, I literally thought, I'm not even kidding, by the end of the day, once our social media team had cut up the podcast that day, by the end of the day, I thought I was going to get doxxed. I'm not even kidding. I was like, man, I'm going to at some point, photos are going off my house. I'm going to get doxxed. And I have not seen anything like that other than, I think about Tebow, and I think we've talked about this in the past, just about how the hive around a player, a certain individual, is just so intense. And it is that way for Shedeur. And I'm curious to see how the Browns outlive it, because there's no question when you talk to people in the organization who knows that offense better and who they feel more comfortable with between the two rookies, operating it. And it's Dylan Gabriel, and that's something that's not going to go away through the end of the season. So.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So another bizarre situation this weekend, Charles. The Mark Sanchez stuff in Indianapolis. So he's felony battery charges for the altercation with the 69-year-old delivery driver. What do you make of this? How does Fox handle this from here? Where do you see this going? What do you make of just what a crazy story this weekend in Indianapolis?
I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. Like I didn't initially see the news. Dawn saw it, and she said, "Hey, Mark Sanchez got stabbed." And I was like, "The Mark Sanchez?" I was like, "Just from the Mark Sanchez, the analyst, former Jet Mark Sanchez." She's like, "Yeah, he got stabbed in Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis." And I thought to myself, I'm like, I've been in downtown Indianapolis, and now I've seen some crazy stuff. I don't think people would remember this, but there was actually someone shot and killed in their car in downtown Indianapolis last couple of years, where the vehicle kind of came to a rolling stop in the middle of downtown Indianapolis, and it kind of been something that had transpired between two cars. And, but I just was like, wow, this is nuts. And read it initially, and kind of, everyone's concerned about Mark. And then to see it flip the way that it did was, that was really stunning. And I thought, okay, well, so for the narrative to go the way that it has from authorities, to get to the point where he's in the hospital and you're charging him in the hospital, and then to get to the point where he's checking out of the hospital, you're taking him to jail, and now it's become a felony issue. The first thing I thought in my mind is, man, this must be some crystal clear footage. Like, there must be something that they have in their hands that shows there's no doubt in their minds to move the way that they did, and to have the guy who, stabbed him now portrayed as the victim, and then to see the photos, I was like, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, I don't even. Sometimes things surprise you, and you're like, I never could have, predicted something like this. I don't know what to really say about it, because we're going to kind of watch this now unfold legally, and it's not like this is a guy in a small job, right? I mean, it's a massive job, so there's a massive spotlight, and it's one of those things that comes out of left field, and I just you don't even know what to really say about it. It's funny because we talked about it in the podcast, Andrew Siciliano and I was like, I don't even know what do we even say?
Yeah.
it's so crazy that I don't even, what do we say other than, if this all plays out the way that it's being portrayed right now by authorities, man, it's a super messed up story. Like, I don't even know it's sad on one level, but it's just jacked up. I've never seen, it's rarely that I've seen things like this happen with a personality that is so clearly in a great spot, in their career, especially post-playing career, and to see something like this transpire. I mean, how did you guys react to it?
I'm stunned.
That's the funny thing is, I'm like, I ask people, like, what did you think of that? And people are just like, it seems surreal. Like, it seemed bizarre.
Well, I mean, to your point, like, they must have, like, for as quickly as it all went down, from the stabbing to him being charged, like, and them, like, being out there talking about how, like, the version of events the victim gave lines up. Like, they must have, to your point, they must have something that basically spells the whole thing out.
And it's real big.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not, that's the thing too. Like, for someone to stab another person, and for the authorities to be like, no, he was in the right.
Right,
basically,
exactly.
Which is the indication you get, right? Like, we're not charging that guy. We're charging another guy who's in the hospital, who's recovering from being stabbed.
Of that guy.
Yeah.
And I saw
the guy that's in the hospital all messed up.
Yeah, and the guy that's in the hospital all messed up, and then even the footage, the snippets that we've seen of Sanchez walking, which clearly he's what he's wearing is wet with what is his blood. It was just wow. It's I don't even know, this is one of those things where we're like, okay, we're going to find out now through whatever the legal process is. And then eventually this is something that will play out over a period of time. We're going to find out how that night unfolded, and probably some personal things about Mark Sanchez and his life. If this is all true, if what we're hearing is true, we're going to probably hear some things that are revelatory to us about how this could have happened.
So on the AFC South front, we've talked with you about the Colts, and they continue to just beat up on the Raiders, and they still look great, have all season long to this point. What about the Jags? So the Jags get this dramatic win on Monday Night Football. You've got Liam Cohen and the ride that's been to this point between getting into it with Robert Saleh, the Duval stuff. Like, I thought they were screwed when they hired him, between him and Gladstone. And we've talked with you about that. But here they sit at 4-1 with, Lawrence falling down twice on a play, scoring a touchdown the other night. You got Travis Hunter doing his thing out there. What do you make of them, their start to the season, and is this sustainable with Jacksonville in your mind?
3 worst intro press conferences I've seen in the last couple of years. Nick Sirianni, Dan Campbell, Liam Cohen.
It's
right?
crazy. Yeah.
So maybe when
Adam
you
Gase?
hire
Adam Gase.
Okay, Gase. Okay, I wasn't going to go back that far, but you got to, PK, you always got to throw in something that,
Sorry, I mean, Adam Gase with that
let's leave
stare.
Adam Gase in the infamous flying taco video.
Oh, one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, one of the greatest inventions. Still to this day, I think that whoever
Give that list.
they deserve, there's an Emmy, an Oscar, whatever it is. Whoever
Give that list again.
Okay, so Adam Gase undercuts my narrative, but the other 3 guys, Nick Sirianni, Dan Campbell, and Liam Cohen, just Nick Sirianni looked. I was scared. I'm like, oh my god, this dude's nervous. Like, he is just this is going. This is not a good press conference going into the league. And then Dan Campbell and the knee biting thing, and I was like, he's just nuts. Like I'd talked to Dan prior to that ever happening, but I was like, okay, this is some weird metaphors this guy's coming up with. And then obviously the Duval, the weird, just like, are you on some kind of a list? You should not be around people, kind of like. And yet here they are, 4-1, right? And I went through Jacksonville before the season, spent some time with James Gladstone, who is every bit as young as he looks. Was fascinated to kind of hear him talk about sort of how they set up the scouting structure there, and just operationally what he wanted to achieve. And it was all very high-minded, very high bar. We're going to change things kind of, and you're like, man, this could go really, really bad. And yet here we are. And by the way, we're here at 4-1, and the Travis Hunter thing has not worked out for them yet.
Yeah.
I would argue that, like, there's no doubt. Like, when you look at his contributions defensively and offensively, he's not where I think maybe we thought, or at least I personally thought. I was like, he'll have some kind of a significant impact on one side of the ball pretty quickly. And instead it's kind of felt middling, both ways. You're like, now I was staring at him going, you just got to make a commitment here, man. Just move him to offense and figure it out there, and then sprinkle in defense, or move him to defense and do the opposite. But I will say this. I knew from Cohen's, reputation coming out of Tampa, I was like, I knew the Jacksonville running game would get better. I didn't realize it would mean Tank Bigsby, going out the door, and ETN being the guy who gets life breathed into him, and Basil Tootin. But I knew he would get that together. So there's certain aspects of what they've been able to pull off. Now, that said, when you sit there and you stare at it, you go, okay, well, 5 games, you've been 27 points better than, your opponents at this stage. So the margin is not, it's not like Indianapolis. Indianapolis is dominated in their 4-1 starts. There's just been games where you're like, this is real. The defense has come to play, the running back, the quarterback. I mean, there's multiple things you can point at in Indianapolis and say, this feels sustainable. Jacksonville, I think they still have to prove it in terms of sustainability. But it's certainly been a surprise that I didn't necessarily expect. I think there is a ceiling here too that's still attainable in terms of like what they ultimately decide to do with Travis Hunter, and I think they're still trying to figure that out. I thought This last week, we saw the impact a little bit more on offense than I expected. Brian, I don't know what's going on with Brian Thomas Jr. I tweeted about this or X'd about it during that game where I'm just like, he didn't feel to me like he was coming off the line of scrimmage fast. I don't know if he's bigger, like playing at a higher weight than he did last year or what, but there's just certain elements of, early in the season, I think with him, there was some concern about, he had taken some hits and it was like, is he alligator arming it? Is he, shying away from contact? Why is there not this connection between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. that there was last year? I still think they're working their way through that. But yeah, I mean, the division has not played out really the way that I thought. I would have thought you're out of your mind that Indianapolis would be 4-1 through 5, or that Jacksonville, that it would be 8-2 between the I didn't expect a ton out of Daniel Jones going to, Indianapolis. Even when people were telling me, look, they just need some competent quarterback play, it was hard for me to believe that they would be in this situation. I'd love to go back and listen to our talks about the AFC South before the season, because I guarantee you I probably said some stuff that I would look like total crap right now.
Same.
Based on how I saw the division.
Are the Baltimore Ravens fixable? How much will health help them, or are they broken beyond that?
I don't think it's just health. And I'll tell you, so the Ravens, go back to when they played Detroit. Something happened in that game that really concerned me. And I know John Harbaugh has come out and he's supported defensive coordinator Zach Orr. Get it. He's trying to stick with his guy and ride this out. And definitely health has something to do with it. But there was a play when I was watching the All-22 against Detroit where they had an unbalanced line to the left. Sam Laporta is lined up on the left side of the line. And you're watching the defense, and there's a pre-snap motion where Sam Laporta moves from left to right. So now all of a sudden it's unbalanced from left to unbalanced to the right. When you're watching the Ravens defense, they do nothing. Nothing changes. Absolutely nothing. Gap discipline stays the same. Shading stays the same. Linebackers didn't move. Literally nobody on their team moved when you watched it go from unbalanced line left to unbalanced line right. Which to me, I'm like, okay, they just flip whatever the Lions were doing at the line of scrimmage. Maybe the call from Jared Goff was just to flip it based on what he was seeing from the defense. So he just, whatever it's power run left, he moves it to power run right. But what happens when they go unbalanced line right? Snap comes, Laporta seals the end. Penei Sewell moves up, wipes out Roquan Smith, and David Montgomery's off to the races. Massive play for the Lions. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, how does that happen with a defense? Like, something was either not communicated, it was coached poorly. Like, it was just a situation where you don't often see that, where a pre-snap motion, literally the defense does nothing. And you see the offensive formation change in a way that was not predicted up until the point when the motion actually happened. So you're like, that's a huge mistake. Now to me, I'm like, is that coaching? Or is that because at that time, I mean, defensively, yes, they were missing guys, but you're like, well, Roquan should have seen that. Right? This is a all pro level player at his peak. He's, been through a lot of rodeos here. Like he should have seen this coming. And so I wonder that was the moment where I'm like, is this coaching? Like, is something not getting through between how Zach Orr is calling the scheme or how it's getting taught and the talent level on the field. But as you said, PK, I mean they've had massive losses defensively when it comes to the personnel. And I was working the last couple of days just kind of a warm up piece to the trade deadline, and there are definitely teams that are already like, yeah, Baltimore's probably going to be one of those teams that's dealing, or open for business at the deadline. Like Eric DeCosta is probably going to look at some of these veteran pieces. And so I think it's like Mark Andrews could be a guy who ends up getting called. I wonder if maybe Derrick Henry might be someone that if they get into late October and they're still sitting on one win and Lamar's got a hamstring injury that's going to linger, that this could be a team that you start to see them make some moves to change some of the salary outlook, moving forward. But I don't know. I wish I could tell you, definitively that this is a coaching issue or just a health issue. It's probably a little bit of both at this stage, but I can tell you that with Lamar Jackson off the field there, I think there's a chance. I would be shocked if they're not 1-5 after the Rams game. I almost feel like it's baked in at this point that they're going to have to go through, these losses and then try to figure out their bye. You got to buy a couple weeks out, and maybe that's where they try to clean things up. But everybody I've talked to so far is putting Baltimore in the potential trade deadline seller group, and to me, that's a sign that there's not a lot of faith that the Ravens are going to turn this around coming out of October.
All right, last thing. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm just going to ask, who are you most scared of, like in AFC, which we thought was powerhouse? Everybody had Bills. Everybody had Ravens. People with the Chiefs fading. I don't know how much tarnish that New England game takes off the Bills. Ravens obviously not there. Chiefs, maybe rebound, but are you putting the Colts up there? Do you still think it's the Bills? Who's your favorite in the AFC right now?
Don't you guys feel like there's just so much parity that you're not pinning this? It's hard, right, to pin them.
Yeah, that's the question.
An AFC team. Yeah, and I think that plays into the trade deadline. I really truly believe that. That's why when the Terrion Arnold injury happened, I started to text guys about the Lions or whatever, and there's this like, hey, they could jump on Greg Newsome now rather than wait until the deadline, because right now there's this feeling. I think there's a feeling when you talk to people across the league that's wide open that, hey, it's anybody's call right now. I think there's a suspicion that I know Kansas City's 2-3, but everybody's wary of this idea that Rice is going to walk through that. He can walk through that door after the 6-week suspension, and next thing you know, you have a couple of players between he and Worthy that provide explosives, and that offense could kick it into gear pretty quickly, and then they could be in a position at the trade deadline to make a move. I think this is what makes this a really interesting trade deadline for the league, because I think it's so wide open in the AFC, and by the way, in the NFC. It's not like we're sitting there staring at the Eagles and going, yeah, they're clean.
Right.
It's anything but clean right now for the Eagles, especially with the passing game. And so I think that's what makes this trade deadline so intriguing, is that you could see some teams that are sitting there going, hey man, it's if you're Pittsburgh and you're going, every other quarterback in our division's jacked, like completely jacked up. Like, yeah, we're 3-1. We could win this. And so why would we not go shop for another, wide receiver for this offense right now, which I think there's a handful of wide receivers available. So I think it's, even Buffalo, when you watch Buffalo, are you sitting there going, yeah, the passing game feels completely resolved?
No,
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So I PK, you asked me that, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who I would pin it on. I mean, I guess I would say Buffalo, because I feel like at the very least they felt like the most complete team, but they've also had moments already in 5 games where you're like, ew, they're vulnerable. There's no question about that. And so I think the trade deadline is going to be a lot of fun this year, because I do think you're going to find some teams that are like, let's see where we're at, and coming out of October, and can we add a piece here or there, and that gives us maybe a little bit of edge over everybody else. I'll just repeat, every time I kick Kansas City or doubt Kansas City, I get it stuck up my rear end. So it's probably just the 2-3 Chiefs that I think are, a little bit dysfunctional right now, and certainly not playing offense the way that we've seen in the past, who maybe getting Rice and then maybe going out. And I still think if they can add the right running back at the deadline, that could really supercharge that offense in a way that they need it.
Charles, great stuff as always, brother. Appreciate you taking time to be with us today, and we will talk to you next week. Good luck to your Tigers on Friday.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Charles Robinson, our guest, joins us every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock here on the program. We'll react to what Charles had to say, continue the conversation on the Titans with PK coming up next. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. DVD with Willie Donick, Derek Mason, and Adam Vingan will be broadcasting live at the all-new Circa Sportsbook Kentucky in the Mint Gaming Hall this Monday prior to the Monday Night Football games. Monday night matchups are the Bills and the Falcons, and the Bears taking on the Commanders. Speaking of Circa, Titans and Raiders coming up this weekend. You can hang with Titans fans, including the crew from 102.5 The Game, at the Overhang Bar at Circa in Vegas. Drink specials are included, plus giveaways, including 2 tickets to the Titans-Raiders game. Go to circalasvegas.com for more information. Appreciate Charles Robinson for being with us in the last segment. So, PK, I want to get your thoughts on this. So, I mean, we all know this. Everybody, if you're being honest with yourself, it feels like Brian Callahan's fate is sealed as Titans head coach, right? Like, we've talked about this. It feels like a matter of when, not if, that he's getting fired. So I guess if you're him, you've got a couple of choices there. You can just resign yourself to that and start thinking about life beyond Tennessee, or you can fight like crazy to change that narrative, which I assume that's the route he's trying to take. So, PK, within the scope of realism, which means I'm not talking about them rolling off 9 wins here or anything. Within the scope of realism, how does Brian Callahan change that? They got the first win under their belt, takes a little bit of pressure off for the time being. The conversation on him on this week has cooled. How do you flip the script? How do you change the narrative if you're Brian Callahan moving forward?
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the season. Let's go back to all those months of the off season. And when he didn't get fired after the season, what did we say? This was a hugely popular question. We spent hours on it in my time with you guys, and you guys spent a ton of time on it. What does Brian Callahan have to do to get a year 3? Right? And most of us said it's not as much about the record, though he's got to meet some level of improvement in win-loss, as it is about Cam Ward's growth curve. Well, Cam Ward's growth curve just shot up in that one quarter, and we've talked a lot about sustaining that, building off of that. So, excuse me, this is a big game. Does Cam Ward go out and play crappy after that game, or do they show some ability to take what he did in the fourth quarter at Arizona and translate it into a game where, even with Max Crosby probably bearing down on him multiple times, he can make good decisions, find some good throws, throw a variety of different passes to a variety of different targets, who can get some effective yards after the catch. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I think we ran through it yesterday. There are winnable games on this schedule, including this one.
Yeah.
He needs to win some of those games. I think most of us said, if he could get to 5-6 wins, that could be enough for him to continue. So I think in his head, and all coaches say this, and I tend to believe him. I don't think he's sitting in his office thinking about getting fired. I think he's sitting in his office doing his job and saying, I'm going to do the best job I can and let things fall where they may. But it doesn't do any sense. It doesn't do me any good to just kind of throw in the towel. Now, maybe there'll come a point in December, if things trend really badly, where there's, he at least privately acknowledges that hopelessness that we were asking about last week. But for right now, especially off of that first win, I think he sees hope and a path. The other thing is, he needs not to have any more coaching blunders where he doesn't challenge the right call, or mismanages the clock in a bad way, or makes a terrible analytical decision, or can't decide whether he wants to kick a field goal or not.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, because I agree with everything you said. Like, the Cam Ward growth curve, that's all we talked about in the offseason. And I still think that's the most important thing. However, the information that has changed since then and since those conversations is, well, he has had some absolute blunders out there, and he has come out and not known the rules and all that stuff, and defending his guy, all those things that we know that have happened to this point. And he's had play calling stripped away from him. So with those two things kind of in the background, I wonder how much that changes the equation, because as we know, like, taking the play calling stuff away from him. Came from up top. And that kind of shows you where I think they thought the head coach needed to focus his effort. So I hear you on the Cam Ward stuff, and I'm with you. It's the most important thing. But I think those are two pretty huge developments in this thing, too, which also change the math moving forward.
Absolutely changes the math going forward. But he still is the lead dog with regard to Cam during the week and in game outside of calling the plays. In terms of hands-on and lesson plans and technique coaching and all of that. If he's not doing it himself, and he is doing some of it himself, he is coaching the coaches who are coaching Cam as to what the message is. This all is trickled down from Brian Callahan. And so as whatever Ward does this year, whether Callahan's calling plays or not, Callahan's going to deserve credit or blame for it. And I think fairly. I mean, the buck stops with him. And so if he's going to save himself, which I think we all think is unlikely, but there is still room and there is still time out of this patience that they seem to be on track to stick with. Cam Ward is the answer to all of these questions.
Well, one more segment with PK coming up next. Take your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Saturday's college football game of the week. South Carolina taking on number 11 LSU at 6:45 on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants and Circa Sportsbook Kentucky. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Paul Kuharsky, Ian Safar here with you on this Thursday morning. Let's head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland to the program. Adam, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, Robby, man. So, yeah, dude, I've been sick like the last 2 weeks. So I have not listened to sports talk radio or really had to participate in anything in like 2 weeks. So, and I promised you that I wouldn't discuss the Titans, and Ian brought that up as well. So I'm not going to do that. I will say go Preds. I hope we're awesome. The Cardinals are a horrible football team. They should be 32nd in every power ranking. And if we beat the Raiders, they should be 32nd in every power ranking. I've never seen a football game end the way that football game did. I feel like it was a bookie game. Like, that's how it felt so rigged. That's how bad the Cardinals are. So I'll just say that, dude. Like, if you lose to us, you should be 32nd. And I hope the Preds are awesome. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. PK, it is going to be very interesting. Not that we care around here about the Arizona Cardinals, but that is the type of loss that can make a team self-destruct. And I am interested to see how they respond to that. 3 consecutive walk-off losses for them, and one that they just totally gift-wrapped last week.
Yeah, Titans can only play who's on their schedule. So, I mean, they suffered through bad stretch first 3 games, it turned out, because the Colts have gotten good. So if they're getting a break now, they'll take it. And they're not going to apologize for it. Arizona's bad and getting worse. And that's the kind of game I've written and talked about these before that leaves a scar.
Yeah.
That leaves a scar. And it'll heal, but that's, the scar's going to be there. Organizational scars from games like that become part of a team's psyche and history and all of that. You can change coaches and all of that, but as you look at the franchise and what the franchise is, that's a game that is there. Titans have games like that. Cincinnati playoff game, no matter what the Titans do, who the Titans become, that Cincinnati playoff game, always a piece of Rexrode makes fun of me for talking about DNA. Always a piece of their DNA. Get the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
1 home game away from the AFC Championship game, and what do? That's a piece of them.
Have you ever been to Allegiant, the giant Roomba coming up this weekend? Is this first time?
I've not been to Allegiant, and I am looking forward to it. I've got a buddy who is Vegas crazy from Southern California, and I'm going to meet he and his wife there Saturday morning. A little nervous about that and the day that we will spend. But Sunday, obviously, all business. I'm looking forward to seeing Allegiant. I understand that there are some commonalities between new Nissan Stadium and similar, the same builder, obviously. So I will be looking for clues there, but always excited to see a new venue, a new building, and have a little bit of affinity for the Raiders story and everything, considering that I got my first job doing this when the Raiders moved back to the renovated Coliseum in Oakland. And that stadium is now out of business, and the Raiders have moved again. So that's pretty wild from a personal standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it looks awesome in there, and like you said, some similarities between Allegiant and what the Titan Stadium could have included in it. So looking forward to your report on that. Preds opening up their season tonight. They take on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Fresh start can be a beautiful thing. We'll see how the Predators handle it tonight. PK, and an 82-game season, try to avoid going 0-5, digging yourself in a hole. That'd be a nice start from the Preds. Get a win tonight.
Yeah, and they've got room here more in the fall than usual, I think, just given how bad the Titans are, to see the city's attention in a way they usually don't get to in the fall. So go grab that.
Yeah, no question about it. Preds in action tonight, 7 o'clock puck drop. Pregame at 6 o'clock here on 102.5 The Game. PK, thank you for being with us, brother. My condolences to your Yankees, but there's always next year, my friend.
Oh, I've got a family that still alive and anxious to see what happens tonight. So I will try to jump on their train. Not the same by any means. Don't block a box out there. Be sure to lock your locks. And we know who's not blocking the boxes. People with ducks on their
get the ducks and the Jeeps off the road. That does it for us today. Next man up with Jake Lyman coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.